Hello, boys and girls. My name is Miss Cindy, and I am your host for today. This is your teacher, Miss Brydup. Today, we will learn all about Mae Jemison. She worked for NASA, or the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and was the first African-American woman astronaut to go into space. And by the end of today's lesson, we will be able to identify and use vocabulary words, describe the life and contributions of Mae Jemison, and compare and contrast the lives of Nicholas Copernicus and Mae Jemison. Mae Jemison was a famous astronaut who worked for NASA. NASA is an organization that was started in 1958 to lead the scientific research and exploration of outer space. Many different people work at NASA to help support the different missions or a specific task or job that a person or team performs.
Hi, boys and girls. I want you to put your thinking caps on, or perhaps thinking helmets, to answer these questions. What do you think scientists and other workers at NASA might do to help astronauts, such as Mae Jemison, be successful in their missions or job they are trained to do?
I heard so many great ideas, and I agree with you that they would train the astronauts to operate the space shuttle, help them to learn how to put on their suits, and even teach them how to walk in outer space.
In today's read aloud, you will hear vocabulary words that are related to the process or work of science and the study and exploration of outer space. Have you ever heard the word aeronautics? What do you think it means? Those are some great ideas, but let's look at the word parts in aeronautics and see if it helps us to confirm or change what we originally thought it meant. The word part aero means having to do with air, and the word part nautics is related to navigation. Now that you know the two meanings of the word parts, what do you think aeronautics means? Good job. Aeronautics is the study or practice of flight and aircraft. Listen to the word being used in this sentence. Anna's uncle Charles studied aeronautics before becoming an airplane pilot. That means Charles studied flight and aircraft, which is the plane, before he could become a pilot and fly it. Guess what, boys and girls? It's vocabulary time. In today's text, you will hear words about space and science throughout this lesson. For this segment, you will listen carefully to each part I say aloud and repeat it after me. Are you ready? Great. Let's get started. Repeat after me. Engineering.
Engineering.
Engineering means the study and work of using science, knowledge, and methods to solve problems in the world. Your turn.
Engineering means the study and work of using science, knowledge, and methods to solve problems in the world.
Great job. Listen to our sample sentence and repeat it back. When the city decided to build a bridge across the river, they knew it was important to have good engineering so that it would be safe.
When the city decided to build a bridge across the river, they knew it was important to have good engineering so that it would be safe.
Here is a picture, boys and girls, to illustrate the word engineering. The next word is conducted. Say that word again.
Conducted.
Remember to repeat the definition after me. Conducted means carried or made something happen. Your turn.
Conducted means carried out or made something happen.
Listen carefully to the sample sentence. The astronauts who live and work on the International Space Station have conducted many experiments. Can you say that back to me?
The astronauts who live and work on the International Space Station conducted many experiments.
As you can see in the photograph, those astronauts are conducting some type of experiment. Our third word is pursue. What is the word?
Pursue.
Pursue means to do what it takes to accomplish something. Your turn.
Pursue means to do what it takes to accomplish something.
Now for our sample sentence. It was very important for Mae Jemison to pursue her dreams.
It was very important to Mae Jemison to pursue her dreams.
Here we see a picture of an astronaut who obviously had to pursue their dreams to accomplish this great task. We have already talked about the next two words already, but let's quickly review what they mean. Aeronautics is the study or practice of flight in aircraft, and mission means a specific task or job that a person or a team performs. Raise your hand if you can tell me what type of graphic organizer this is. Correct. This is a Venn diagram. We use a Venn diagram to help us compare and contrast. Today, we will use the Venn diagram to compare and contrast the lives of Nicholas Copernicus and Mae Jemison once we complete our reading. Throughout the lessons, you have previously learned about Copernicus with Captain Hinton and Captain Baker, and today you will hear a little bit more to help remind you. But our reading will mainly focus on the life of Mae Jemison. So you will have to pull from all of that information you have stored. But since we know you are all so smart, we know you can do it. But if you need a little help, that's okay. We're here for you. So let's get started with our reading. Mae Jemison is a famous astronaut who worked for NASA. As we read today, I want you to listen for three things. The first thing is to find out why Jemison is famous. Next is to find out in what year she traveled to space. And lastly, you will also listen for the contributions Jemison made during her life. Then at the very end, we will come back to our Venn diagram to add those comparing and contrasting facts we learned about Mae Jemison and Nicholas Copernicus. Also, when you see the question mark like the one on the bottom of your screen, you'll know that a question will be asked, so make sure you pay close attention to the words Mrs. Cindy is reading to you.
When Copernicus was born in the 1400s, space travel was an impossible dream. Copernicus didn't even have a telescope, let alone a spacecraft. But thanks to the careful observations, logical thinking, and bold ideas of Copernicus and many other scientists before and after him, today we live in an amazing time when dreams of space travel really can come true. Advancements or improvements in technology have made it possible for human beings to travel into space. Ever since Apollo 11 first landed on the moon in 1969, more and more astronauts have flown into space. Would you like to be one of them?
Let's take a moment to think about what we've just read. What event led to the increase of space travel? Great answers, boys and girls. Let's look back at the text to find evidence to support our answer. The highlighted sentences we read support our answer to the question about space travel. Let's reread that together now. Advancements or improvements in technology have made it possible for human beings to travel into space. Ever since Apollo 11 first landed on the moon in 1969, more and more astronauts have flown into space. Let's keep reading.
Mae Jemison's answer to that question was definitely yes. She dreamed about going into space from the time she was a little girl. And when she grew up, that's exactly what she did. In 1992, Mae Jemison blasted into space aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour. She lived on the Endeavour for 8 days and conducted or carried out many experiments while she was there. In these experiments, she carefully collected information about how weightlessness in space affects animals and humans. One of the experiments involved frog eggs. Jemison wanted to see if they would develop into tadpoles normally while in orbit. Mae Jemison was the first African-American woman ever to go in space. In fact, she was the first African-American female astronaut in the history of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Wow, we've just read some important things about Mae Jemison, so let's stop and discuss. Why was Mae Jemison's mission to space so important? And can we describe Mae Jemison's mission in space? Good job. When we look back at our text, we can see our first answer highlighted in green. Let's reread the green sentence aloud. Mae Jemison was the first African American woman ever to go into space. Now, to answer our second question, we use the text evidence in blue, which states, in 1992, Mae Jemison lived aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour for 8 days. She lived on the Endeavour for 8 days and conducted or carried out many experiments while she was there. So great job using the text to support your answer. Now back to our reading.
How did Mae Jemison make her childhood dreams of space travel come true? Part of the answer is that when she was young, she read a lot about the things she was interested in. Jemison was born in 1956 in Decatur, Alabama, but she grew up in Chicago, Illinois. As a child, Jemison was very interested in space. She was 12 years old when astronaut Neil Armstrong and his Apollo 11 mission landed on the moon. At age 14, Jemison was still interested in space, so she read many adult books about astronomy. At the age of only 16, she graduated from high school and went to college at Stanford University in Stanford, California.
First, let's look for the state that we live in, which is Mississippi. Great job. You found our state. Now, let's look for the state of Alabama. That's going to be next door to the right to find where Mae Jemison was born. Looking a little further north, we see the state of Illinois, which is where she grew up and went to school in Chicago until she graduated at age 16. But wait, Mae's journey did not end there. She decided to move all the way to the West Coast to attend Stanford University in California. Let's keep listening to Mrs. Cindy read to find out even more facts about Mae Jemison.
Education was important to Mae Jemison. Education is also very important to NASA in choosing who will become an astronaut. While Jemison was at Stanford University, she studied chemical engineering, which is the study of chemicals or substances and how they can be used to solve problems or make products. While she was at college, Jemison also enjoyed theater, dancing, and playing football with her friends. She believed it was important to be a well-rounded person, which means to study and enjoy many different things. Jemison graduated from college with a degree in chemical engineering and Afro-American studies.
Mrs. Cindy and I studied education in college. What did Mae Jemison study while she was in college?
Miss B, do you think we can find evidence within the text to help support our answers?
Oh, I'm sure we can. The sentences highlighted in green are where we find support for our answer. Take a few moments to review those now. Fabulous job, boys and girls. We are going to continue reading to see what other great accomplishments Jemison had.
Besides wanting to be an astronaut, Mae Jemison also wanted to be a biomedical engineer. Biomedical engineers seek new ways to use technology to improve healthcare for people. When Jemison graduated from college, she thought about applying right away to NASA to become an astronaut, but decided to go to medical school first. In medical school, she traveled around the world, providing medical care to people living in developing countries. As a medical student, Jemison traveled to Kenya and Africa, where she helped with community medicine projects in a very difficult area. Jemison also traveled to Thailand and Asia to care for refugees from Cambodia. After Jemison graduated from medical school, she worked for the Peace Corps for more than 2 years. The Peace Corps is a U.S. governmental organization that sends volunteers to assist people in developing countries. In the Peace Corps, Jemison was responsible for the health of Peace Corps volunteers working in West Africa.
Let's stop and think here. While reading, we learned that Mae Jemison was a biomedical engineer. What does that mean that she did? And what kind of international work did Jemison do to help people around the world? Look at the sentence highlighted in green. It says, biomedical engineers seek new ways to use technology to improve healthcare for people. This is where our answer for the question is supported. For the second sentence, which was what kind of international work did Jemison do to help people around the world, we can find many pieces of information on this page, as well as information continued on this one. To summarize, all of that would be to say Mae Jemison traveled to different countries as a doctor in the Peace Corps to help various communities stay healthy and safe.
In 1985, Mae Jemison decided the time was right to pursue her dream of space travel. She applied to NASA to become an astronaut, but soon afterward, in January 1986, NASA suffered a terrible tragedy in its Space Shuttle program. The Space Shuttle Challenger burst into flames a little over a minute after it was launched. After this tragedy, all astronaut applications, including Jemison's, were postponed, meaning that NASA was not accepting any applications for new astronauts for a time. After NASA reopened the astronaut application program, Jemison found out that she was chosen to be an astronaut in 1987.
Something important has just happened in the text. What event postponed Mae Jemison's dream of becoming an astronaut?
I heard a lot of great answers, boys and girls. Listen as Miss B helps you identify sentences within the text that supported the answers you gave.
Let's look at our text evidence. It says, in January 1986, NASA suffered a terrible tragedy in its space shuttle program. We also see, after this tragedy, all astronaut applications, including Jemison's, were postponed, meaning NASA was not accepting any applications for new astronauts for a time. Now let's get back to our reading.
In 1992, after completing her space shuttle mission aboard the Endeavour, Jemison was famous. She was the first African-American woman to go into space. Jemison retired from NASA in 1993 to pursue some of her other dreams. Jemison has used her fame as a launch pad to bring important issues into the public spotlight. She founded an international science camp called The Earth We Share. Students at the international camp work to help solve current global problems by using science and technology. She also started her own company, which seeks to develop technologies that benefit planet Earth and the people who live on it. But most of all, Jemison is a great example of how important it is to follow your many dreams. Mae Jemison is living proof that your dreams can literally take you out of this world.
Let's stop here for a second and discuss some characteristics we have learned about her so far.
Miss B, I heard a lot of the boys and girls say that Mae Jemison was determined because she never gave up on her dream as she worked toward becoming an astronaut with NASA. I also heard them say she was intelligent because she became a doctor and an astronaut.
You all have been listening so well and were able to give characteristics with examples that supported Mae Jemison as a person. Now let's get back to our reading, our text with Mrs. Cindy.
Mae Jemison is just one of many astronomers who have added to our knowledge and understanding of space and the universe. For thousands of years, humans have been curious about the celestial bodies and what lies beyond the Earth. Even now, there are man-made satellites, spacecraft, and even scientists in space performing experiments, gathering information, and taking pictures. As we come to the end of our space journey together, there is still one question. What's next? As we learn more and more about our world, There could be a thrilling discovery waiting right around the corner. Will you be the next great scientist to contribute to the work of other scientists who have come before you? Will you become an astronaut and set foot on another planet or moon? Will you discover a new celestial body, a new galaxy, or even a new way of thinking about our world? What's next?
Take a few seconds to tell those around you. Great job, boys and girls. Wow, we've read some interesting facts in Chapter 10. Let's stop to compare and contrast using our Venn diagram chart. All right, so we're going to do our Venn diagram today to compare the lives of Nicholas Copernicus and Mae Jemison. You may work with a partner or a small group while you complete this activity along with us. On the left, we have listed only the things that are about Copernicus or that he did. And on the right, we will list only the things that are about Mae Jemison that we learned today. Under both, we will list anything that they both did or accomplished. Take a moment to look over the facts already stated about Copernicus. Okay, the first thing we can say about Jemison is that she is a woman. Let's add that now. Copernicus lived in the late 1400s and early 1500s, but she, Mae Jemison, was born in the mid-1900s and is still living today, which I think is pretty cool. Our third contrasting fact about Mae Jemison is that she had NASA and technology to conduct her observations and experiments, as opposed to Copernicus, who had very little technology to make his observations. Let's do one more fact for Jemison before we discuss how they were the same. He only studied in Europe, but she traveled all over the world and even in outer space. So how are they the same? You're right. They both studied space, became a doctor, and even went to a university. Boys and girls, you have done a great job helping us learn about all the great accomplishments of Mae Jemison today. Let's use her side of the Venn diagram to help us summarize all of the great things that we learned about her before we leave today. Mae Jemison was born in the 1900s and was the first African-American woman to travel to outer space with NASA to conduct observations and experiments. Do you think learning about outer space is really neat? Then with an adult's permission, check out these websites to learn even more. Boys and girls, you did an awesome job today. We want to thank CKLA for allowing us to share all of this wonderful knowledge with you today. And of course, we appreciate all of you for joining us too, as we explored about Nicholas Copernicus and Mae Jemison. We cannot wait to see you all back soon to learn about the International Space Station. We also want to thank Core Knowledge Language Arts for allowing us to share all of this wonderful information with you today. Goodbye!